My guests are seated, and I am super excited to welcome Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. He's Executive Director of the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana. Prof, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So he breaks the difficult things down so effortlessly that you'll get to enjoy. So get ready for that. Also here in the studio, the man in white, in some celebratory mood, is it? Is Kojo Opong Nkrumah, MP of Wase Ayerebi and Minister for Information. Kojo, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Morning, Samson.
Great. So when last night, yesterday, I got to know about the list of guests who are appearing, and I said, okay, about 3 lawyers. Then I said, I've always associated Kojo with figures, so I almost forgot that he's also a lawyer. So 4 lawyers. Okay, we're going to have a good time. Also here in the studio, Dennis Ejay Jumo. He is also a lawyer. Martin Pebu is also a lawyer. Okay, so you're right. When you say today, it's a law file. But these are lawyers who will break the issues down in ways that you can enjoy. So thank you very much once again for making the time to join us. And we broke into the live coverage. It's going to be an extensive coverage all day until the NDC primaries, flag bearer primaries are over. So we broke into that live coverage to bring you Newsfile. When we are done, the coverage will continue. But it's very obvious, isn't it, that the John Mahama is elected. Am I right? Could you just briefly in a minute?
Well, that's our hope, actually. Whose hope? That's the hope of the New Patriotic Party.
That John Mahama will be elected?
Yes.
Right.
And may I take advantage to say good morning to colleagues here and to your viewers, and to wish the NDC well in their election today. We are optimistic that they will elect the former president, John Mahama, so that we can, put his record on the line and match it to that of the sitting president. We think it gives us a good edge for the next election.
Right, and some well wishes for Nigerians will be in order, right?
That is so as well, especially after their first hitch. It is our hope that they will be able to contain the tension associated with a postponement like that and do Africa proud.
Great. Martin, flip side. People are actually saying that the NPP is scared and they don't want to have John Mahama. And that because if you bring John Mahama, you're going to fight the man on his record. And it is a ginormous record, particularly when it comes to infrastructure. So it may not be exactly correct that you are praying that John Mahama rather is elected.
That's, this is a very difficult question. Extremely difficult. But, in matters like this, a person's natural orientation influences the answer. I would say, to be very frank, generally, we've become accustomed to 8 years. I mean, very honest. I'll be candid. I don't want to give an answer that people who talk to me know. I'm oriented towards 8 years for each party until we get a third force. But now I'm beginning to have a second thought that, well, when something happens in Nigeria, generally there's something like a domino effect here. And it appears from the little that I'm hearing about Nigeria, it looks like Atiku may win. So I'm like, wow, if Atiku wins, then maybe it's possible that the dynamics in Ghana will change. So that's it.
I see.
Yeah.
You have not spoken about John Mahama. That's the question.
Oh, so that's it. So meaning that generally, whether it's Mr. Mahama or any other candidate, as I said, my orientation is generally that it's 8 years for each party. Okay. You say it.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And if you read in our history, generally the history supports 8 years so far.
Right.
But I'm open, I'll keep an open mind, waiting on what will happen in Nigeria.
Then there's no doubt that Mahama is, elected.
Obviously, there's no doubt.
People are thinking about the numbers that he would get. That's what they are looking at, isn't it?
Yes, and I think it's not surprising. This is not the first time we have encountered that. That same issue also came up when MPP had his own primaries. There was a situation where certain people from certain quarters felt that Nana was going to win and there's as to the number of votes that he's going to win. And if you look at how people have been whipped in line in terms of the former president's campaign, the people who are actually the big weights in the party are supporting. we will not be surprised in terms of how he's going to. For winning the primaries, I think he's going to win. But as in winning the 2020, I think that's a bigger hurdle that they are thinking of right now.
Okay, so, Prof. C, and before this morning, my production tells me that they were trying their best to get, you know, some of the finest, you know, the big guys in the NDC and their officers, at least one of them, to be on the show for a brief commentary about this before we started looking at the issues that we had to look at. Unfortunately, they couldn't get any of them to commit to be here. And guess what? Almost all of them are going in to sort of whip people in line to vote for John Mahama.
Yeah.
That's bad. You don't like that. Where you sit, you don't like the democracy to be one that is, you know, not open to options.
Well, it is open to options. I mean, there are other people competing in the primaries against President John Mahama. But a party has the free will and choice as to who it wants to choose, who it wants to elect to be its flag bearer. I particularly find it a bit mind-boggling that the NDC would put itself in this position. I also share the sense that John Mahama is going to prevail in the primaries, but I don't know if that's best for the party. And I actually agree with Kojo that I think the NPP clearly would prefer that John Mahama be the candidate, and for good reason. I think that the NDC would have done themselves a lot of good if they had looked elsewhere. But that's the NDC. It's the choice that they are free to make.
Okay, you are with those who are shocked that John Mahama would even contemplate, you know, a return.
I am not shocked. I think that in the nature of things, in the way power works here as well as in Africa generally, I think if you've had a taste of the presidency and you've not exhausted your term, and you were kicked out, I think that there would be, I would be surprised if he didn't harbor this intention to come back. What surprises me is that if you weigh all the factors, I think good reason, in my view, would counsel against the NDC itself, not John Mahama, but the NDC itself allowing that to happen.
Well, the NDC thinks it's their best bet.
Maybe he has the biggest war chest of all the candidates, and these things, you know, take money, a lot of money from some of the studies that we've done at CDD on the cost of politics. It takes a huge amount of money, both at the primaries, in the primaries as well as in the general elections, to actually prosecute a successful election. So that may well weigh in their thinking, you know, and I think that it's up to them who they want to represent the party on the ballot in 2020.
I was actually thinking it would not have been possible to have you here because you would be in Nigeria monitoring the elections.
No, well, our team, we have a team in Nigeria. My deputy executive director, Dr. Franklin Odro, and our Codeo team and CDD team are
is to
there.
get you to comment on what is happening in Nigeria.
You know, I think it's an interesting. I don't know who benefits actually from the hitch that happened, which led to the postponement of the election by a week. But I am also picking.
It will affect the turnout, right?
Not so the turnout as the feelers I'm picking are a bit interesting. I think it goes along Martin's lines, that essentially it appears that there is some shift in favor of the challenger, which would be an interesting upset for Nigeria. I don't know about the domino effect, but yes, we and Nigeria have this pattern of basically following in each other's footsteps in these matters. But it would be an interesting dynamic if it did happen. But I do wish them well. Nigeria is very important to us in the region. We want it stable and peaceful. And I'm hoping that whichever way it turns, that the transition will be orderly and peaceful.
I was there in 2006, and I think there's a CDD in Nigeria. CDD in Nigeria.
It's a Center for Democracy and Development.
Okay.
And we are a Center for
Right.
Democratic Development.
Yes.
So one very quick thing in the Nigerian dynamic. You notice that the PDP is not repeating its candidate,
Yeah.
Okay.
who comes with, or who would have come with a certain track record. That would then be comparable to the track record of the incumbent president. It's a very different dynamic in Nigeria as well. And I'm sure that
it's also,
they
it's
will all
also a
fit
very
into the
different
dynamics.
dynamic
Yes.
when it comes to the PDP itself.
Yes,
Yes.
that is
It's
so.
a party that, you know, behaves like a chameleon almost
That is
every
so.
election year.
That is so. That is so.
It's disintegrated and it's reorganized. All
The
right.
interesting bit of the Nigerian election is the ability of people to switch political parties.
True. Right.
So you have Olusegun Obasanjo supporting Buhari in the last election, now
And now
supporting
supporting
Atiku.
While they are in parliament, they cross carpet.
It's
almost-
interesting.
We are
Okay.
exceptional in Africa in terms of the stability of our two-party allegiances and the fact that there's very little defection. I mean, between those two parties, no high-profile defections between. I mean, from MPP to NDC, NDC to NDC. Their leads are very stable. And it's actually a subject of quite a bit of study, and why Ghana's two-party system has actually stabilized such that you don't find major defections at all between those two parties. No matter how long you're in opposition, you stay in opposition. Nigerian politics is not like that. Kenyan politics is not like that. Zambian politics is not like that. So there's something about our politics that is worthy of study.
But wouldn't you prefer their conduct?
Well, not necessarily.
Well, does not assure the party that you have the numbers all the time.
I think there's something to be said for both sides. It does mean, it could mean, for example, that here there are clear ideological preferences, that people really have a sense that the parties offer them a choice, and therefore, you know, they would much rather stay where they are. But there's also, to the extent that it is not fluid, you know, it also sometimes is frustrating. Then people think that, well, you know, I don't have a choice. If my party is wrong at all, I just have to follow them. You know? But you don't find that in many African countries, and it's actually something that, like I said, is actually worthy of study, and I'm sure political scientists are actually studying the Ghana exception.
Okay, all right. So let's listen to.
Add to process. I think that is because of how Article 97 1G has made it. An instance where it's actually you lose your seat when the party that brings you to power.
When you cross carpet.
So you have had an instance where people decided to lose, you know, cross carpet, and they lost the main election, forgetting that they thought they brought themselves to power, but it's actually the party that brought them to power. So I think that might have also influenced the reason why I don't want to move, because if I move from my party whilst my party is in power,
you lose your
I
seat.
might lose my seat.
Right.
So let me be with it.
Is it you might or you will lose?
You
it?
lose it.
Yeah, you lose it. Okay.
Saraki has crossed
The by-election. Okay, right. Thank you very much. So now let's get to the very serious business home of disbanding party militias. And this is an issue that has engaged the nation for a while, but it does appear we are getting to a point of consensus and beyond mere rhetoric action to stamp it out of the system. So let's go to the Emil Short Commission of Inquiry. They had a few things to say about this. Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, who is a member of the commission, was very plain about all of us agreeing to change the nomenclature. Move away from vigilante, because that's not who they are. They are militia. And those who support them and sponsor them are warlords. Then we will hear also questions posed to Evans Mensah on this issue, and the NDC, the NPP, and President Akufo-Addo. We'll return to the studio after this.
A recommendation that even the post of an IGP, just like we have in the lower ranks of the police where promotions are based on the exam and assessment, should be one that people so qualified should apply for, and a competitive process used to select the very best. That is one. For the group of audience who recognize that we're almost at the point where it appears the horse is already bolted from the stable, which is that the vigilante groups are already with us. They suggest, one, the political parties must be made, and there's a lot of talk about this, and you get a sense from our audience that they're fed up with the mere talk and no action. The political parties must be made, compelled either by law, to immediately disband these groups. Not only disband the groups, disarm the groups. Because I've heard members of the audience who listen to Joy FM or the JoyNews on television say to us that if you only disband, we know that some of these individuals are armed. What do they do with the arms they have if you only disband? There must be a deliberate process to disarm them.
The mask, as my DSP said, was mosquito, but it wasn't for mosquitoes. I think it was just a joke that he made. But we normally mask to ensure that our operatives are not seen. Operatives live within the communities. If you see a policeman even mask, it means that policeman is living within the community and he can be seen today or tomorrow after operation. So normally, those who live within or who are likely to be seen and their cover will be blown are masked.
No, but you are disbanding them and stopping them from being party members or what? You see, we should be criticizing actions that goes beyond their mandates, yes. But if you call for disbandment of it, what do you mean? I mean, I don't understand. Bians to come and train them? Have you heard us bringing South African people? Where were these people when people were brought from South Africa and Serbia to come and train people? You see, you are comparing grapes to oranges. Totally different issue here. We are talking about a group within a political party that had the backing of a presidential candidate, today the president, brought people outside this country to bring military training to them, different from the training we have in this country. Can you tell me anywhere you find the Hawks being trained? These are party people and they play their role as party members. That is all. So don't compare us to the invisible force.
Mr. I mean, with the way you're talking, it's as if you are financing them.
Financing them. If I finance them to do their activities in the party, what is wrong with that?
National security is a disaster. Can power disaster. Yeah, election. Boys, you call. Who catch it on say, who the away politics, whom first he can just answer. I don't know your man, but there's undercurrent. Now, he send people when they see, say, and for 4 where any year fighting crown, home so much politics, and not the woman air control, Nioma, year, December, 2nd round, 2008. Can the party Shemenim, Ewo, Royal Park Restaurant? Oh my God, Jamzambua. Say, no defense minister, catch him the security are breaking down. And yani yankasa yankofi security na kanti di woye poultry your friend Boris oma won sika NDC for won sika also security are breaking down and me nko yani yankofi security me kofosu akopage sika 1 billion and I the mama chomen 1000 that was True Vine Hotel go and check me the sika me buy no be the ma opanyi be friend kwa nusu and we check and ma wo gonna I had to go back to Central Region again. And madam, baby, I have do 8 years. You just don't sacrifice people like that. Now, advice I'm the buyer. Obia Alpha. Who is anybody here? For a disaster. Please.
My interest. I quite agree with you saying that if we call these things political vigilantism, we dignify it and make it a noble cause. And like all bad things in this country, we call bribes by fund names and we stop seeing them as bad. We call these things political vigilantism and we don't quite appreciate how bad. It is plain warlordism. And they are malicious. They are not political vigilantes. They are malicious. And so it gives me concern if you are responsible for internal security and they are malicious operating all over, and they are private militias subject to some people's control. Those people are warlords. And if we don't take the matter in hand and confront it as such, and we take the position that when they commit an offense, then we will deal with it, I'm afraid you would have bred a dragon that you cannot.
Right. So let me begin with Professor HKC Prempeh, and we will conclude this discussion on the president's posture and commitments that he's made. But to start with, it is very clear, isn't it, that the two major parties have been nurturing, raising these groups of terror groups and sponsoring them, and now they are turning against them. And so they appear to want to now come to a point of consensus that, in fact, we need to deal with them now.
Well, I think that is part of why we have the short commission. And I actually think that before we draw conclusions and begin to talk even solutions and the like, we should allow the commission to help us define the nature of the problem, the contours of the problem, the source of it, the genesis of it, how these things began, what the situation is now, so that we have a good inventory of what it is that we're dealing with. I think certainly, anecdotally, we all know as citizens living in this space that there has been in the past, for some time, a certain trend towards this militancy within our parties. One party, one party blames the other for beginning it. The other party feels, well, we must also respond in like fashion, and then, it gets to this point. But I also think that there is one structural political dimension to this that we need to underscore, which is that none of this, well, I can't say none of this will be possible. I think that part of the problem is structural. It's a structural issue with our politics and our political economy, which is that the president has disproportionate resources and opportunities at his disposal once elected to reward all manner of foot soldiers who, in his or her view, contributed to his victory, with jobs in the state security sector, with paybacks for sponsors of these so-called vigilantes, with state contracts, with positions on boards and the like. And to the extent that we have treated our elections as essentially about spoils of war, essentially that's the way we fought our elections. Whoever wins gets all of the spoils of war, and that's a huge duty to be distributed. Now, if that was not there, if the ability to reward those who have fought, sometimes with their lives or with blood, for a president to be elected, if that president did not have this